My God! Now we're gonna begin. We're gonna begin the next fucking series where Yuri is firmly on Jack's asshole. Let's go.
Yuri, if you're not a Mark, we can't be seen talking with non-Marxists, Yuri. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Micolash, man. According to these guys, yeah, man, it's just absurd, bro, man.
That's not what I said, though.
Oh, go ahead,
I didn't
bro.
say.
Go ahead, man. YouTube channel,
claim...
man. Up and hoppity.
What? Anyway, the claim wasn't that they don't talk to non-Marxists or they're like 100% ideological purists, right? The point I was making is that I just don't understand the mutually exclusive take that we were talking about before I left for dinner. I don't understand why there can't be some sort of like pragmatic consideration of harm reduction. And further, if you engage in that pragmatic consideration of harm reduction, that you're immediately like endorsing every aspect of bourgeois politics and you're acting against the interests of the working class, right? Like if you held a gun to my head and said, look, there's a bill going through Congress right now that could like dramatically improve the quality of life for workers, and the other option is not advocating for that bill and just talking about theory and the revolution, and the bill fails because I could have influenced it passing, I'm going to feel like a bad person, right? I don't understand why these things have to be like separate considerations. I really don't get it.
Hate the game.
Where'd you get the idea that communists don't believe in passing bills?
Look, but that's the thing is you're saying that when I, like, for instance, go on Twitter and advocate for some sort of like policy proposal put forward by the Democrats that does that very thing, you know, raises the minimum wage, strengthens unions, whatever. My understanding, correct me if I'm mistaken, I don't want to straw man, is that I'm endorsing bourgeois politics.
Let's just look at the tweets, right, which Josh objected to.
Sure, yeah, man. Yeah, like you said that.
Wait. That doesn't make sense that communism would engage in electoralism because it's a stateless society. How would a communist society pass bills? Because that means
look,
that
even if I say something like, I think Biden and his proposals, unions, whatever. My understanding, correct me if I'm mistaken, I don't want to straw man, is that I'm endorsing bourgeois politics.
Let's just look at the tweets, right, which Josh objected to.
Sure, yeah, man. Yeah, like you said that.
Wait. That doesn't make sense that communism would engage in electoralism because it's a stateless society. How would a communist society pass bills? Because that means
even if I say something like, I think Biden and his proposals, specifically some things like the American Jobs Plan and the American Family Plan, are more worker sympathetic than a lot of proposals are and have been in recent memory, which I think is a claim that I made, because the American Jobs Plan proposes all sorts of like infrastructure benefits, supports like employment for blue collar workers, higher pay for them when it otherwise wouldn't, right? Let's ignore any like conservative objections about deficit spending. Let's just grant that it could be funded, right? When I say, oh, these are decent ideas, I think these are pragmatic, practical things that could be implemented. I think Biden is indicating that he's at least marginally better than the vast majority of politicians that have come before him, including other Democrats, right?
This is just nonsense. What are you saying?
What is nonsense about that?
What does it mean to say that he's marginally better? Are you insane?
The things he's proposing and attempting to have passed benefit workers more than previous comparable pieces of legislation.
Then you just run into like wait, hold on, shut up, bro. Shut up, man. Hold on.
Fuck you, Yuri.
I was speaking first, bro. You just run into like the whole is Mussolini better than Adolf Hitler thing. Like which one?
What?
Bro, keep it down. Let him just go.
Do you think that's even remotely analogous?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah, I definitely think so, bro. Like you have Biden sending troops back into Syria, my man.
First of all, I didn't advocate for Biden sending troops anywhere, right? Second, you think me saying that something like the American Jobs Plan or the American Family Plan is a lot better than comparable legislation that's been proposed in recent memory.
No, the point
you
is,
think please stop interrupting me when I'm talking. Please stop interrupting me. Right? You
the
think
American
that
Jobs Plan.
you think
the American Jobs Plan.
Wait, Pogan was going. Let him finish.
Hold on.
You think that's comparable to saying something like Mussolini is better than Hitler? That's your claim. That's what you think?
Look, don't overtalk me now. Look, the idea
they created jobs. Hitler.
Hitler and Mussolini both created jobs. You could argue Mussolini is better, right? Because Mussolini killed less people than Hitler and did less outrageous things. But both
he was nicer to the Jews. But then again, Hitler was very kind to dogs.
Right, and that's my point. I wasn't done. Hold on real quick, Pogan. Just one more thing, and then you can go.
Hitler also.
Micolash,
Hitler and the Nazis also. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
Yeah, but my point is regarding Biden being better than Trump, right? Is that you could argue that Biden, right? He's offering 3 2-year college, right? Things like that. But at the same time, Trump took people out of war in Syria, but he's bombing brown people in Syria right now, dude. Look at that type of stuff.
I'm not making the claim.
Of course, like you could say Biden is marginally better if he's giving workers free
stuff.
To what degree, bro?
Without supporting
I'm not making the claim that he's like quote unquote good. I'm not making the claim that like politicians have the best they're like operating out of like some moral conscience.
But then it's just trivial then.
Please let me finish talking. The point is, when something is preferable to an alternative, right, and it is very unlikely, if not impossible, that some sort of like Leninist revolution is going to get off the ground in the next few decades, if not longer. And I say something on Twitter like, I think this is better for workers than the alternative. I think this, even if it's marginally, it improves people's lives. The point is, like, you guys want to respond to that by saying that I am endorsing bourgeois politics and hurting the working class. And I just don't see how these two things are mutually exclusive.
It's just when you say that.
I don't see how a statement like that necessitates that I am, like, opposed to a workers' party, or I'm opposed to, like, workers seizing the means of production. None of those things are true. The whole point is that it's a pragmatic consideration. What's not pragmatic is the idea that a revolution is going to be successful in like 10, 20, 30 years, given the current political climate and given current socioeconomic conditions.
Yes,
it's just not practical.
But endorsing these policies that make worker conditions better, doesn't that prop up capitalism? Wouldn't you want to hasten the end of capitalism by making it as least attractive as possible?
But that's, look, bro, that has been said, but that's like an accelerationist take. That's to say something like
Logan, don't talk to bro, talk to Jack.
I just want to respond.
Wait,
to him.
but what were you
that
take,
take,
Michael?
Can I? I
can't remember. Just quickly finish Pogan and then
Pogan, give people a
look. I'll be very brief. I'll be very
the American Jobs Plan.
I'll be very brief. I'd like to finish.
The American. I've been trying to say this for a while, Pogan. The American Jobs Plan doesn't create a single fucking job.
I just want to point out that this is like Pogan against like 4 other people, so it's
not
going to be. I just want to say it's not like a one-to-one time thing that would be fair. It would be fair for Pogan to get a little bit longer time than each individual, if that makes sense. If it's going to be
I appreciate it, but look, let me just respond to what Bro and Michael said, right? Because I think there's 2 points. The first is like that take where you say, oh well, endorsing the Democrats, it props up bourgeois democracy, it props up capitalism. That's like a fucking accelerationist take. That's to say something like you should allow conditions to worsen or bad things to pass when there's a preferable option because it deludes people into believing capitalism is acceptable. So the idea there is that I should allow people to be harmed when there's a more ethical alternative because we don't want to prop up capitalism.
Capitalism, in your belief, is a harmful environment. Why would you want to prop up an
my belief that
it's on people?
My belief that it's harmful doesn't necessitate that I need to take the accelerationist route of never taking ethically preferable like pieces of legislation and instead saying, nope, I'm going to wash my hands of this. whatever passes, even if it fucks over workers even further.
If we accelerate the end of capitalism within the decade, as opposed to keeping capitalism around for another 1,000 years,
we move on from this point and get to like Jack or
that's
Minto?
preferable.
Wait, I haven't read the Militant today, Michael. Did they report on the American Jobs Plan? Yeah, so why don't you just have Pogan read what they said? I haven't read it yet.
I gotta find it. It was either in, I think it was in this week's or last week's. I gotta find it. But they basically say it doesn't create a single job. All it does is put more money into the hands of capitalists, and they may create more jobs in the future. That's it.
Yes, but of course, look, I'm not of the expectation that the militant. I'm not of the expectation that the militant is going to have a pro Biden sympathetic take. I'm interested in reading.
Biden.
Can I'm really not. I just want to finish talking. Right. I'm more than happy to read the militant article on the topic, Michael. Right. But the point is, like, let's just grant for a second that, like, even if it has some marginal pro-worker effect or like marginally strengthens unions or like the minimum wage increase is like slight, right? What seems to be suggested here is that what should be done is instead no discussion of that policy whatsoever on the basis that it's bourgeois politics, no endorsement of it. All attention should instead be sent to consolidating worker parties and promoting.
Discussed it. He's saying they discussed it, right? So what?
They discussed it. They discussed it insofar as they critiqued it and said it was it was
probably said.
And they said it doesn't create a single job.
Yeah. So what they're probably saying.
What is the basis for that claim?
Well, that's a separate issue, right? The point is, if that's
I'm not going to just take the militant on authority, though.
You don't have to take them on authority. I'm just saying, right, that if they're right about that. If that's the correct assessment to draw by examining the bill, right, then what they're going to say is workers should mobilize to demand something that actually addresses their needs rather than some bullshit gift to capitalists that's disguised as a bill that's in the interests of workers.
Would the militant advocate for the bill to be? Let's grant that that's an accurate assessment of the bill, which again I'm skeptical of. But I'll read the article and I'll read the bill in more detail.
Yeah, but
let's just grant. Well, I would be skeptical of taking anybody on authority with respect to an issue like that.
except Biden, right?
I didn't take it on authority. I've read portions of the bill. Now you can make the claim that even if a bill becomes a law, even if it passes, right, it's not necessarily the case all provisions in the bill are going to like come into effect, and that's true. That happens. Hold it, just a moment, please. All that can be discussed at this point, prior to it becoming a law, and prior to those policies being enacted, are the provisions within the bill. That's all that can be discussed.
I'd like to understand why you wouldn't take the militant on authority.
It's not that I think the militant has some like unbelievable, insurmountable bias. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't merely say something like the militant is correct without first reviewing the bill and contrasting that with their analysis of it.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, look, the militant says it doesn't create a single job, right? I'm just going to assume that that's true.
Yeah, like, why would you trust the hand that controls you, Pogan? Like, how many times have we seen
been over that? We've been over that. I didn't trust. I didn't look. It's not like I read some Biden PR release and I was like, okay, that's that seems to be a fair representation of things, right? I read a portion of the bill. We've seen the
capitalists do this over and over again, bro.
Excuse me. You're not even a Marxist. I don't know why you're like contributing, right?
Yeah, I am a Marxist.
The point is. No, you're not. The point is, like, I didn't merely just read like a tweet or something. I read several provisions in the bill, and I'm making a fairly simple claim. Like, that seems to generally be preferable to a lot of comparable legislation that has been proposed recently.
Bro, no low blows, man. Don't call people's Marxism into question, bro. Don't do
that. Yeah, bro. That's cool, bro.
Look, I'd much prefer if we got back on point. Look. There's a lot of research done on the effect of like public sector investment and on job creation. And if you look at the kinds of things that the American Jobs Act proposes, it would propose the kind of public sector investment that typically does create those jobs. So that's why to be fair, there hasn't been a review on the specific act that discusses exactly how many jobs will be created yet. It hasn't been concluded. But it would be, how do I say this? I would be very surprised if it created no new jobs. That just seems incredibly unlikely based on the nature of
it creates like one extra job. Yeah.
No, not just one.
It's obviously a complete oversimplification.
There's over 9 million people who need jobs.
Say again?
There's over 9 million people who need jobs.
Let's just look at what.
Unless all of those people are employed, we shouldn't endorse legislation that affords jobs to a good chunk of them. I don't understand.
Let me just say this.
I don't understand why you would take whatever the bills are going to say seriously, you know. And anything that
what
comes
am I
out
supposed to evaluate other than the bill, Michael?
Pogan, these are the people who, behind closed doors, said that 140 million Americans are deplorable and irredeemable. In a room full of big bankers who stole our money and gambled it away on the stock market.
Who raped and shot people?
Michael, it's not Michael. Listen, unless
these are the people. These are the people you're putting your trust in.
Yeah, people who raped and shot
it's
people
not
in Puerto
about
Rico
listen.
and
It's not about
ransacked Cuba,
listen, Yuri, stop. You're not contributing. Okay, please. It's not about trusting their words. All I said was, from what I have read of the bill, it seems preferable to a lot of legislative alternatives. And the response from you and Jack at this point seems to be, straightforwardly, what I should be trusting is not the bill. Instead, I should be trusting the militants' assessment of the bill, right? And I don't understand that. Presumably, you would read the bill. Presumably, you would read the bill, and you would say something like, and I think this is a fair claim, if it's the case that these provisions are implemented, let's just grant that the bill goes through, it becomes a law, they implement these policies, right? That seems preferable to A, existing policy, and B, a lot of comparable legislative proposals. That seems like a very reasonable thing to say.
Pogan, the Democrats are the party who decimated welfare.
Yeah, these are also the people who the CIA brought drugs in. Shut up while I'm talking, bro. Shut up while I'm talking. These are the people who brought in drugs into African American and minority communities.
What does this have to do with the bill, Yuri?
Why would you trust anything these dudes say, bro? Like, why wouldn't you take what the militant says on authority, bro?
Because I don't take anybody on authority.
That's retarded. And why do you want to take this bill so seriously?
I'm performing an assessment of the bill as a piece of legislation.
Hold on. All of this talking about not taking the bill seriously is kind of dumb. Conceivably, the militant took it seriously enough to look at the bill and calculate its jobs proposal and determine that it doesn't.
Because they're a news organization, dude. That's their job. That's like asking like the average. That's like asking the job. Wait, do you think it's unreasonable for the average American to let's say if American didn't have an understanding of like quantum physics, right? And so they just take it on authority that instead of relying on their next door neighbor, right? They rely on like someone.
What are you talking about right now? Mechanics. Nobody said that you should just defer to the things that the politicians say. I specifically said it's not merely just like taking Biden at his word or whatever. What I said was you should evaluate the bill and then you can say something like, if the bill were to be passed, if these policies were to go into effect, right? Those seem pretty decent relative to current policy and relative to comparable pieces of legislation. That's the only claim that was made. And the response to that was, you should instead defer to the statement made by the militant on the bill, instead of reading the bill for yourself.
Pogan, look what's happening in the economy, right? Capitalists themselves don't have faith in the economy, right? They're not trying to expand production in the long run, right? They're just gambling away our money on the stock market, right? They have no plans to expand production in the long run.
Yeah, okay. So that means we can't evaluate bills.
Like bullshit.
Well, look, I don't understand what that means. What do you mean when you say "seems like bullshit"?
The Democratic Party is controlled by the capitalist class. Pogan. A portion of the
both
capitalist class. They
parties
listen,
And
instead of portion.
Point.
yeah, I accept that. I agree. They're both bourgeois parties.
They're not loyal to us. So they do whatever the ruling class tells them to do, right?
Do you think that... Okay, let's put it this way then. Do you think it is never the case that we should, like... look, if one party is making some sort of concession to workers that benefits them, but the other isn't, you're saying we shouldn't, for like quality of life, harm reduction reasons, go with the concession while still moving towards socialism? Like, this just seems to be going back to the...
Should we have supported the Nazi Party because they proposed to tax the rich?
Completely disanalogous.
Should we have supported them if they proposed to tax the rich?
That's completely disanalogous.
Answer the question.
Look, of course there's going to be competing reasons in the case of the Nazis that makes you not support them, right? I don't think the Democrats, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm mistaken, plan on genociding anybody soon. So given that, right, it seems like the consideration is just based on legislation.
They're willing to kill. They're willing to starve and kill millions of people, Poke.
I mean, they support genocide in Israel and
like they're currently
Libya
bombing
and all that
people
kind of stuff.
in Africa, dude, and in the Middle East. Like, come on, man.
Look at this domestic terrorism.
Wait, I mean.
Seth, just a second. We can reduce this even further. So you're saying because of the actions of both bourgeois political parties in the United States government, that if there's something that employs, okay, let's take the 9 million people you were referring to that are jobless. There's a bill that employs, say, half of them, just hypothetically, and then a competing bill that employs, I don't know, 1 million, right? Not half, significantly less than half. If I say, yeah, I think we should pass the bill that employs half as opposed to significantly less than half, what I am doing is no better than like sympathizing with Nazis. That's the claim you want to make. That sounds ridiculous.
I didn't say anything about sympathizing with Nazis.
Well, that was the analogy you drew.
I was saying, should we support them? You know, just because they say they.
I'm not supporting them.
You're supporting the Democratic Party.
I didn't. At no point did I say I was supporting them. I said we should like, given that we're existing in this system, given that the revolution is not going to happen very soon at all, right? If something significantly improves quality of life for people and something else doesn't, I'm going to go with the thing that improves quality of life. And that does not pose a contradiction with any other political view that I have. It doesn't mean that I'm not like a socialist. It doesn't mean that I think capitalism is great. It doesn't mean that my ideal scenario is one where bourgeois political parties control everything. I'm literally just performing pragmatic harm reduction.
So let's say that the Republicans were the lesser evil. Would you support the Republicans?
If the Republicans were proposing legislation that benefited workers more than competing legislation, yes.
No, I'm just saying right now. Let's say the Democrats are just lying, and that they're actually worse than the Republicans. Would you support the Republicans?
You're just asking me if I would like defer to the party making better policy proposals for workers.
Yeah, that's what Pogan's claiming.
Yeah, so you would support the Republican Party, right?
I don't. If by support you mean I would prefer their legislation to what legislation that would be worse for workers, then yeah. I don't care what party it is. It just so happens that more often than not, policies proposed by the Democrats are at least marginally better for workers than policies proposed by the Republicans, who tend to do things like provide greater tax breaks to corporate interests, provide like environmental deregulation proposals, those sorts of things, right? That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't matter what party was doing it.
Support legislation without supporting the party it's from. Why is that difficult to understand?
I actually agree with Pogan though, since that's the claim. And I guess
if tomorrow, look, Michael, let me just ask you this: if tomorrow the GOP, right, proposed a piece of legislation that bumped, obviously this is improbable, but proposed a piece of legislation that bumped the minimum wage up to like $30 an hour, and like, completely eradicated attacks on unions by big corporations, protected unions legislatively, a bunch of great things for workers, right?
You would say an hour would not be a great
I'll roll with it. Hypothetical, right? Just policy later. Let's just say that happened, right? And I said, wow, I think that policy is extremely good for workers, and the alternative from the Democrats is much worse. I would prefer the Republican proposal. You're saying I'm hurting the working class? I'm endorsing bourgeois politics by saying that?
No.
Okay, that's my claim, Michael. That's all I'm
Pogan
saying.
wins.
Well, you're saying more than that. You're saying the Democrats are like the lesser evil.
I'm saying they have a tendency to propose legislation that is better for workers on the aggregate.
But the question is, historically, are they the lesser evil? Right? No matter what they propose, it doesn't matter to me what somebody proposes, right?
My consideration is policy proposed now. My consideration isn't that, 50 years ago.
Given the last like 150 years, who's been the lesser evil?
It's irrelevant.
Oh my god.
No, I'll try to explain what Micolash is saying. He's trying to basically gauge your analysis of the priors. He's trying to ask you something like, which party do you think is more likely to be disingenuous about that? Something like that.
You take that into account, right?
Another thing to keep in mind, Pogan, is that lending support to like the Democratic Party has actually led to more harm.
Yeah, that might be the case historically. Sure.
That's how the Democrats were able to decimate
Ask him for particulars on this. If you ask him for particulars on this, he'll tell you to go read a book. And then when you ask what in the book will tell you about this, he'll say, "Go talk to Jack."
Well,
good thing we got Jack.
I just gave a fucking example, Seth.
Look, I can agree that might historically be the case, but the point is, like, you're basically at that point saying that I should just assume Democrats, for every policy proposal that could benefit workers, are just lying.
Seth, hold on. Seth, what was the fucking example I just gave while you were over talking me?
I didn't ever talk to you. You were done.
I was fucking talking.
It was Seth. Did you hear his example? Did you hear his example, Seth, or no?
No, I probably didn't. What's up?
Yeah, because Pogan asked me. Because Pogan asked me a question, and you decided to fucking butt in and try to snap at me.
Relax, bitch.
Let's look our dicks, bro.
Are you asking is based on history and trends that one party would probably be lying about policies they're willing to produce?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you would take that into account. The Democrat Party would most likely do something for workers, even though they are really shitty at it. And they won't fight hard for it.
They're the party that decimated welfare.
It's actually going to be
correct. Clinton did.
No, it's going to be a more dubious claim than you think, because the problem with that is when the Democrats in office, their base very often goes to sleep. And while I actually agree with a lot of welfare reforms that Clinton did, if by decimate you just mean reduced benefit payouts, he did. And the reason he was able to do that is because his base was asleep while he was doing it.
Yep.
So it's going to be a more dubious analysis than you think as to which party has actually caused more harm.
Yeah, but with the rhetoric and policy, what party has recent? All right, go on.
I'm saying he was able to do that because he had the support of the working class.
He was the only Democrat that could ever pass those policies.
No Republican had ever been able to do that.
Yeah, there's no way Pogan saying all this and not aware how Democrats will say one thing, they'll say one thing and do another. Clearly.
Yeah, of course.
He seems to be living under a rock.
Well, but he's just talking about policy. That's all. He's not saying, of course, he'll do it.
Hold. The point is, at that point, you're just saying evaluation of bills is unfalsifiable. Because if the bill sounds good, they're probably lying. If the bill sounds bad, then, you should expect that because they're capitalists. They want to fuck you over, right? So basically...
That's been my experience, Pogan.
I appreciate that, and I'm not trying to belittle your experience. I'm just saying I'm not in a position in my life.
I know you're a fucking child.
How did it go from 2 to 10?
Why is that relevant? Why is my age relevant?
Because you've never struggled a goddamn day in your fucking life.
Are you out of your mind? Are you serious?
Oh my god.
Spicy lived experience right now.
Just to be clear, I've seen Pogan's FAFSA. He's on a full ride to college, maxing out loans. His parents make near the poverty line. That's not a good path to take on Pogan. you really need to be careful when you say shit like that. You really don't know what you're talking about if you're saying that Pogan hasn't struggled economically.
He is a child. He hasn't struggled the way I've struggled.
That may be true. I would agree with you there, right? But the insinuation that I'm like financially fine.
Give it a few years, Pogan.
I don't know,
Nico,
Michael.
it's really easy to bitch.
Michael. That's like a really fucked up route to take. I don't know, dude.
Nico, if there's no party you can support, what do you do?
But Michael, man, like let's try to stay rational on this. Let's not get too emotional. I understand. I understand.
Stay rational now.
We're all friends. Come on, just chill.
I understand. We like bitch about both parties. Oh,
just a second, Michael. I am aware. Stop, bro. Michael. I'm aware. Look, I'm aware of the things that you've gone through, and I'm sympathetic. I'm sorry that has happened. I'm not trying to belittle you. I'm not trying to like say you're wrong. I'm not trying to say like just suck it up. Clearly, I'm not saying any of those things. I have a slight disagreement with you on like, is it okay to evaluate public policy?
You're not serious, Pogan. You're not a serious person. You've never read a single fucking Pathfinder book. You've never read a single fucking book on
You can't talk to Micolash about this conversation.
I just don't why are you personally attacking
keep it up, Seth. Keep it up.
Michael, you're personally attacking me, and all we've done in this conversation is disagree politically. I just don't understand. Like, I didn't say anything about you. I didn't impugn your character.
Welcome to every conversation I've had.
Pogan, are you for revolution? All right. Pogan, are you for revolution?
No sniping. Come on, just let them hash it out.
I don't know. I don't want to engage if he's gonna be upset. I don't want to upset him.
We all got heated.
I just wanted to ask, like, if you're for revolution, like where Micolash might be coming from.
I don't think socialism. I don't think socialism can be achieved through legislative reform.
Maybe that's where he's coming from. Where like if you believe that maybe it might take like a few more years before, like deep down you're willing to act on that.
I don't know, Pogan. Maybe
life kicks you a little.
I don't know, Pogan. Maybe you're just a child, homie. Maybe you're just a child.
You understand, man. Let's not harp on that.
Yeah, you'll understand when you're like a year. How old are you now? Actually, I'm curious.
I turned 24 in August.
He's like 23, but like
I'm 24. When you turn 24, you'll get it, man.
Oh, that's not. No,
when you turn 30, you'll unget it.
No, I'm trolling him. I'm just trolling.
He's wrong, but like it got spicy. But like if that's where he's coming from, where like I've heard Michael talk about revolution, and I assume you agree with that. Maybe where he's coming from, it got too spicy. And maybe where he's coming from is like you'll really practice what you preach and believe that if life has humbled you a little more and you have to struggle in this system, that you're willing to, accept the bill for. I don't know.
What's funny is I actually want to analyze that practically. I think the opposite is actually true. I think that if it Pogan's damn, I want Pogan to hear this, but if it's the case that you and your family have struggled more in the present, I think you're actually much more likely to be interested in those policy proposals because you need help more immediately. Like, I'm not even saying that's the case for Pogan. I'm saying that's the case for like the general person. Like, I wouldn't suspect somebody who was struggling currently to be have obsessive desires over theory. That person needs help in the here and now,
Pogan's not in favor of acceleration. He's not in favor of immediate revolution. How the fuck are you going to achieve socialism? Just wait for it to happen? Oh, it's a fucking fairy tale. It'll happen one day. But, taking actions to instate the beliefs that I have? No, I can't do that. The dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Do you think he's going to come back in a second? Maybe you can respond to you instead of you just nipping at his heels.
No, I've said this to him.
I think
before.
it's pretty disingenuous. I think you're being pretty disingenuous.
Disingenuous? Everything I'm saying, I believe.
Hey, Michael, are you there?
Disingenuous.
That's not.
But even like foreign policy wise, right? Because I think that's a big thrust of the kind of the idea behind this is that like there are pretty relatively big differences between the Republican and Democratic Party in terms of like what our aggression is going to look like. And also, like, say, like, take the example, I think is, what was it, the Kurds in northern Syria, where we was it the Kurdish people in northern Syria that we or not Syria, Iraq, where we rescinded our support for them under the Trump administration. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like policies like that, I mean, that had a huge effect on those people, right? So I would take a Democrat to, support that policy any day, keep that going, rather than a Republican.
Obama bombed more people in the Middle East.
I mean, to be honest, generally, I don't know. I'd have to disagree on that last thing. Like, generally, for the most part, I'm in support of a troop withdrawal. And actually, one of the things I liked about Biden's State, as much as generally I lean conservative, one of the things I liked about his State of the Union address is that he opened up with the idea of ending the wars. That was like the first thing that he said. And you know what? Yeah, absolutely. I do. For the most,
Obama say that as well?
Yeah, for the most, for the most part, that would be preferable. I think we've expanded our military beyond their designated purpose, which is the defense of the soil and sovereignty of the United States. Right?
Sure, but I mean, do you think that we should have some like strategic positioning to support, or let's say like defend against other superpowers encroaching on other countries'
I think, like,
ability to trade?
It should be assessed. It should be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Like, for example, I'm in favor of strategic military deployments and troop placements into Ukraine because I think there's a more important, more immediate interest there. We're also supporting a nation we're already allied with. But most of the wars in the Mideast, I want to withdraw, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you there. Like these like invasions of, sovereign countries, like obviously, but like when it comes to, supporting, say like trade allies or whatever, from other like encroaching superpowers. So like our current,
I think I'll answer your question.
Yeah,
I'll answer your question one word comprehensively and decisively. I'm not an isolationist and I'm not a pacifist either. I think there are cases, few and far in between, where it is necessary to use military force to secure strategic interests. And I'm practical about that and I understand that.
Gotcha. Actually, we had while I was going through leadership school, we had some guest speakers talk to us about some of the things that they're doing right now in terms of like national security strategies. And one of the things that we do is that we have this like strategy where we go to some country, we build a base, like very like bare base, right? And then we pack it up and we leave, right? And we do it all in a very like succinct, like quick, rapid sort of deployment. And that's sort of like our burgeoning strategy, is that we're gonna move in that direction where we can just deploy to any location very quickly, set up, and just leave like in a moment's notice.
I'll tell you why I'm generally cautious about it. I had this conversation with my friend. I guess this conversation is morphing entirely, but this might be a more constructive discussion. I had this conversation about Israel, my friend,